Hello and welcome to Montgomery County Police Beat. I'm Patrick Lacefield, Director of Montgomery County's Office of Public Information. I'm here with Montgomery County Police Chief Tom Manger to talk about a very serious concern for not only our county, but nationally as well, and that's how best to protect our students against an active shooter in a school and about gun issues in particular. Tom, welcome.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about how you approach the issue of guns. It's a very divisive issue in our society, but it's part of your everyday life because you're always wearing one.
It is, and you know, there's always a big debate going on in our country about guns. As far as cops are concerned, it's about safety. It's about you know, the issue of guns can be debated in a lot of different ways. But as far as cops are concerned, we approach it as, you know, if a gun is used in a crime, if a gun enters into a situation where it creates a threat, creates the potential for harm, we've got to deal with it. My cops aren't approaching these calls. You know, we get dispatched to a call with a man with a gun. We're not sitting there thinking about, well, about the Second Amendment or about, whether magazine clips ought to be outlawed or, automatic weapons, semi-automatic weapons, assault rifles. They're not thinking about those things. They're thinking about the community safety. They're thinking about making sure that if a gun crime, a crime involving a gun is committed, that we find that gun, take the gun and the person who committed the crime off the street.
Now, the safety of our students at schools is obviously a top priority. Montgomery County has worked with the school system for many, many years on issues about violence and about crime in the schools. Talk to me a little bit about what the department's approach has been.
Well, first of all, this has got to be a collaborative approach with MCPS. And myself and the school superintendent have talked at length about school safety. What we want for our students, for our kids, is to, when they go to school, we want to feel like they're in a safe environment. And that safe environment is going to allow them to focus on learning rather than worried about something happening. And so our approach has been, how do we provide for that safe learning environment without being a presence in schools that give the kids or the staff the impression that we're there for law enforcement. And so I think we've struck that right balance. I mean, when we put school resource officers in the schools, it's not to see if we can how many arrests we can make. In fact, if you look at the number of arrests that we make in the schools, it's next to zero. It's very, very seldom do our SROs make arrests. So really our approach is, let's make it a safe learning environment for our kids.
Right. Now, talk a little bit about the school resource officer program. We have SROs in all of the high schools?
That's correct. Yeah, we've got SROs, school resource officers, in all of the public high schools. And the advantage to that is typically that's where we would have the most calls for service, so it's good to have an officer there. It's also something where the officers who have become teachers and mentors and coaches and worked with the counselors and the other staff at the school to really provide assistance to kids that might need help. Again, we're not responding to crimes, we're not having to make arrests every day, so the fact that we can be there as a resource to these kids, develop relationships with the kids, that's what we're seeing in all of these schools. So when you have a situation that occurs, and like a situation we had up in Clarksburg this past year, the students felt comfortable coming to the SRO and saying, look, we've heard that there's a kid, who's bringing a gun to school, and we're concerned about our safety. And so the SRO, the kids trust him enough to tell him that, give him that kind of information, so we're able to intervene, and everything gets resolved peacefully.
Sometimes when there are these incidents, whether it's the Parkland incident in Florida or other things that happen, they trigger copycats, they trigger threats to the schools. How does the police department work with the schools to sort of sift through those kinds of threats?
It's tough because you can't ignore any of them. You can't just say, well, some kid posted this on social media and just ignore it. Because if by some 1 in a million chance that kid happens to follow up on it and do some harm in a school, the public's going to say, well, look, you had this warning, by the social media post. So unfortunately, after the incident, after the shooting in Parkland, we were responding to 3, 4, 5 complaints per day at different schools from social media posts, from
telephone calls,
threats, or just some information that was coming in through students, through parents, through teachers, saying that we've got this concern about a threat that we've received. So we've ended up spending a lot of time investigating those cases, and because we have to investigate every single one of them.
Now, there have been a lot of suggestions that have been floated around in terms of increasing security in the schools. There have been people that have suggested a program of arming teachers, which I think is done in some states, I think in Texas and Missouri and some others. Others in terms of bringing in retired law enforcement people. Where's the balance? What makes sense here?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, one, I don't necessarily think in our schools that teachers want to be armed, want to have that responsibility, because that's a huge responsibility when you carry a gun. And secondly, I also, in my experience, 40 years as a police officer, you bring more guns to a situation, it doesn't make it more safe. And so I think that having a school resource officer in each one of our high schools it is the right balance for us. And
now they are armed.
They are, absolutely. And so they're regular police officers. They're just assigned to the schools. Now I will tell you that every one of our high schools in Montgomery County are big facilities, and you could be at one end of the school and something could happen at the other end, and you're a good.
By the time you get there.
I mean, you could be 5-10 minutes, to get from that from one end to the other.
Right.
So I understand that it's not foolproof, but I think that this notion of just adding more guns into the mix is not necessarily going to make us more safe. And so I don't think it's a good idea. Arming retired military, retired law enforcement. Again, if you're going to do that, I think that you're better off going with a current police officer who's got the training, who keeps up with their proficiency, with firearm proficiency, and is bound by the department's regulation on use of force. Because the last thing we want is for someone to think that anytime there's a problem that they pull out a gun and that's going to solve a problem, because that's just not the case. The only time a gun should enter into the mix is if it's a deadly force situation, and those are very rare and they're very extreme, and that's when there is no other alternative to a situation rather than deadly force. My cops know that. They understand it. They know the law. They understand it. They understand our policy. They've been trained, and they've completed retraining several times every single year. So I think if you want to have a presence, an armed presence in a school, I think the school resource officer is the best practice.
Right. Talk a little bit about how mental health figures into this, because the combination of mental health problems and access to firearms is something that disturbs a good many people, and of course has been a factor in a lot of these incidents that have taken place, these tragic incidents. How are police officers trained to deal with people who may have mental health challenges?
Well, we get a pretty extensive training in dealing with folks that have mental health issues, because it happens every day. We are dispatched to thousands upon thousands, probably close to 10,000 calls a year, that once the officer gets there, they realize they're dealing with someone that has a mental health issue. So it happens so often, we know it's necessary to give our cops the training that they need, give them the strategies they need when they get there. They can get an idea. I mean, you're in the field, you're in a chaotic situation, but you can get some clues, some red flags, say, I may be dealing with someone who is dealing with a particular mental health issue. So we give them strategies about how to deal with that, things to say, things not to say, but the fact that we can get to a situation and oftentimes de-escalate it, calm things down, even if the person, let's say, is armed with a knife or something. I mean, to be able to approach that in a tactically, in a way that keeps everybody safe, that is tremendously important. And I think that when you look at the police response to those kinds of cases 10 years ago, and you look at what we're doing today, our strategies are so much smarter, and you see the number of times that the use of force has to be used, or my gosh, a deadly force has to be used, has just gone, has just declined dramatically. And this is, so it's good for the police, it's good for the public, it's good for the person that's dealing with that mental health crisis.
Well, that's an interesting question, because a lot of people would say in the wake of highly publicized police actions that involve fatalities, well, why don't people just de-escalate? Why don't people, try and calm things down? But in fact, that's part of what you're already doing in terms of the training.
It is, and that training has gotten better.
Obviously, it's maybe better in some departments than others, and
it has evolved, and it's
right.
gotten better in recent years. And so I think that, but it also, you have to understand that oftentimes it's the person you're dealing with that controls what happens. I mean, if I can calm things down and keep enough distance between myself and a person that has a firearm or a knife, then maybe I can talk to them, and maybe time will be on our side. But if the person with the knife or charges at you, well, then your alternatives are limited, and that situation changes, unfortunately.
Right.
So but what we're trying to tell our cops is, don't create the moment that deadly force is needed. Make sure you've done everything tactically to calm that situation down, to keep that time, keep
right.
that distance from the threat.
Right.
And if the person you're dealing with creates the moment, then obviously police have to do what they need to do.
Right.
But let's not have the police create that moment.
Right. Now, what would you say to parents nationwide who, whenever there's a shooting, whenever there's an incident, of course, it's the headlines, it's social media, it's nonstop for a period of time, and sometimes this can tend to magnify the problem in a sense of these things that may be rare occurrences. People get very worried about their particular schools. Comfort for parents?
It's tough, because I will tell you, I mean, I've got 2 teenagers, and after the Parkland shooting, I mean, believe me, I was thinking about their safety, and thought to myself, well, I know at their particular school that what the principal has done to enhance the safety, and I think that you can talk to the parents about, look, make sure your school is doing everything they can with keeping doors locked and buzzing people in, and camera systems and that sort of thing. But ultimately, you have to, and you can talk to your child, and hopefully, make sure the child understands what their best actions would be. So it's tough to find the right words to make parents feel safe about their kids, because we all got that concern.
We all got kids.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thanks, Chief. I'm Patrick Lacefield, and along with Montgomery County Police Chief Tom Manger, I want to thank you for watching. Please join us again next time for Montgomery County Police Beat, when Police Chief Tom Manger shares his expertise about law enforcement issues that matter to you and me.
Zika virus prevention tip from the Maryland Department of Agriculture. Tarps over wood piles, recycle bins, or trash cans can all hold many puddles of water and lead to mosquitoes using your yard as their home turf. Shake out tarps after each rain or arrange them to drain water away. Keep lids on outdoor trash cans, or they will collect rainwater and provide a smelly breeding area for mosquitoes. Keep up with your yard maintenance and keep mosquitoes away. Learn more at mda.maryland.gov/Zika.
Last summer, my new dad took me on vacation. First, we went deep sea fishing.
I'm so proud of you, son.
Then, we went on Thundershark 3 times.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.